From monkeys playing card games to a duelist life for me, Yugioh GX has plenty of duels where we can just kick back and enjoy the fun without worrying about the fate of the world. In this list, I'll count down my top 10 filler duels. Just one thing to note before we start, these duels are not necessarily ranked in terms of best duels. For this list in particular, I prioritize the entertainment factor as well. Let's count them.
Just as trees sway to and fro, I know what will come.
Number 10 goes to Judai vs Taizan, and yes, as expected, you're going to see a lot of Judai Season 1 duels on this list. Judai's duel versus Taizan is a battle between who has the better draw, a skill that not only applies to drawing cards in duels, but drawing the golden egg sandwich from among a pile of otherwise nasty sandwiches, like a sardine sandwich. Blech. The opponent in this particular duel is someone who had such bad luck with his sandwich pulling that he went out into the wilderness where he lived for a year in order to hone his drawing skills by drawing pieces of cardboard from a waterfall. The only thing wackier is that the school somehow seemed okay with a student of theirs disappearing for a year. As for the duel itself, it tries to pass off this idea that drawing is somehow a skill, which I guess is GX's attempt to rebrand Heart of the Cards. Taizan starts off the duel throwing away his hand to boost his monster by 2000 attack, then relies on top decking the entire way, which goes swimmingly until it doesn't, allowing Judai to showcase his own drawing skills and secure the win.
I dedicate this duel to the ladies in the house.
Got it, kids!
Now who loves you, girls?
Number 9 goes to Asuka vs Fubuki. This duel between the Tenjoin siblings takes place in Season 2 before everyone starts getting brainwashed into the Society of Light. Specifically, Fubuki wants Asuka to join him to create a singing duo. The duel is spectated by adoring fangirls of Fubuki and Asuka's, shall we say, unappreciated fanbase. Asuka appears to take the duel more seriously than her brother, using her real deck, whereas Fubuki goes away from his red eyes in favor of some spotlight-themed deck starring Panther Warrior. The duel is filled with wonky moments like a Cyber Angel seemingly walking away before smacking Fubuki upside the head, and then Fubuki's monster getting stuck because its hologram costume is too big for his hologram body.
Mince that onion!
Hey, look!
He's been unbagged!
Number 8 goes to Kenzan vs Kabayama, the guy whose name nobody seems to know, including his own students and fellow faculty, so in case you forgot, he is the head of the Raw Yellow dorm who has been there the entire time. This is a fun little duel that showcases a curry strategy with monsters like Carrot Man and Potato Man, combining with various spices to concoct the ultimate chef monster, Curry Fiend Roux. While the teacher appears to have the student beat, consider this the first duel that showcased what a problem Tyranno Infinity can be, as Kenzan with no other cards top decks into it and summons a 5k beat stick for the win. Perhaps more entertaining than the in-duel action is the reason for the duel, where Kabayama is sad that all his students are hanging out at the red dorm with Judai, so in order to win them back, he cooks a heaping pot of delicious curry. It would have worked on me, just saying.
Great beast of the sky, please hear mine cry. Appear in this shadow game when I call your name. Come forth, winged dragon of Ra!
Number 7 goes to Judai vs Franz, a card designer at Industrial Illusions who's gone rogue in using the Winged Dragon of Ra to pick fights. This is an entertaining showdown where we get to see Judai take on the most powerful card from the original series. Of course, Ra is far watered down compared to its dual monster days, which is the real reason why it's crying. The duel has some nice callbacks to the original, such as the Merrick-esque fusing of Franz with Ra, and equally shocked reaction when Ra is unable to burn the opponent to death. And it ends on a poetic note when Judai takes control of Ra himself to go for game, signaling a sort of passing the baton to the next protagonist. But the real point of note from this duel is that Pegasus himself isn't even sure if Neos is legal.
He played Neos. Has that even been released?
So is Judai just cheating his way through Season 2? Because that definitely would be passing the baton from one protagonist to another.
No way! Sorry, pal, but your ace just got blown right out of bounds.
Number 6 goes to Judai vs Mitsuru, a showdown against the best tennis player of Duel Academy. But hold on, ladies, not only is he a star athlete, he loves stargazing, taking long walks on the beach, and he's allegedly up there with a Kaiser in duel prowess. Judai finds himself on the bad end of a tennis lesson as punishment from Kronos, but when Mitsuru sees Judai talking with Asuka, he mistakes them for a couple and challenges Judai to a duel to see who will be Asuka's fiancé. Judai, who could care less about what's at stake, relishes the idea of a duel, especially against someone as good as Mitsuru is said to be. In between all the tennis and dueling is a laughing match. But this is no joking matter, considering duelists play with 4,000 life points. Mitsuru having multiple cards that can deal 1,500 with a 67% chance is not to be taken lightly, and he even has a win condition built in toward the end of the duel that Judai is able to exploit. All in all, the lesson is that you can be the lazy student, bum athlete, and still get the girl.
I'll bring back his bud Moki Moki and attack Modi Modi.
Moki Moki. Moki Moki.
Number 5 goes to Judai versus Mokeo. This is for all you Moki Moki fans out there, the monster that features in Mokeo's Because I Got High deck. This is another slice of life season 1 duel that takes place as an attempt by Kronos to get back at Judai, unleashing a duelist they keep isolated from the rest of the island because he has a weird ability to make people around him fall asleep. Okay, I'm honestly not sure which is worse, forgetting that Taizan existed or locking up a teenager into solitary, but Mokeo certainly doesn't seem to mind. Billed as once the best duelist at Duel Academy, the duel delivers with Mokeo having Judai on the ropes until the heroic Bubble Man delivers just what Judai needs. This is another duel where throughout Judai has to deal with those around him cheering for the other guy, much to his chagrin, and by the end of it, everybody wants to take a nap. Speaking of which, feel free to take a quick nap during this commercial break.
What is your wish?
I wish that you'd beat up that mean boy over there.
With pleasure.
Number 4 goes to Judai versus Rei, yet another Season 1 duel. Rei eventually goes on to become a mainstay toward the end of Season 2 and onward, but for now, she's a duelist too young for Duel Academy, but crushing on the Kaiser. Somehow it's Judai who ends up challenging her because that's the theme of Season 1, but I'm glad it is because this duel is hilarious the entire way. The theme of falling in love applies not just to Rei and the plot, but the duel as well, as Judai's superheroes can't help but fall in love with Rei's maiden, who turns the heroes against Judai. As they say, you either die a hero, or live long enough to see yourself become a simp. What's especially entertaining though is that only Judai seems to see all these interactions occurring, as Hayato points out, so everyone else is probably wondering why the heck Judai is yelling at holograms. Anywho, leave it to the women to save the day because once Burstinatrix hits the field, Avion and Sparkman realize who the hottest girl on the field actually is.
Burstinatrix! I know this looks bad, but
Save it! You two are pathetic, but your honeymoon is about to be over.
we're in for it now!
It reminds me of how Yugi used Mystical Elf to get around Mai's pheromone tactics.
Fire! We're on the same team! You vertically challenged elf!
Number 3 goes to the triangle duel between Pegasus, Kronos, and Napoleon. Now, technically, Kronos and Napoleon are supposed to work together to defeat Pegasus so that they can get jobs at Industrial Illusions, but when Pegasus offers the one who wins with higher life points to get a higher position, the two professors turn on each other and start a rousing round of friendly fire. The real treat here is getting to see Pegasus' tunes once more with updated cards and effects more aligned with their real-life versions. The creator of the game does not disappoint, as the American dispatches of the Italian and Frenchman with not just superior dueling skill, but mind games reminiscent of his wily ways in the original series.
The question is, what's the total level of all monsters in the graveyard?
Easy. There's Avion, so 3.
I'm so sorry. You seem to have forgotten all the monsters in my graveyard. It's 13.
Number 2 goes to Judai versus Kanda. Caught me by surprise. I didn't think I'd have this many Season 2 duels on the list, and certainly not this high, but this duel is the epitome of school duel. It tests you mentally and physically, as Kanda runs a quiz-themed deck that forces Judai to answer questions about the game of duel monsters and take on physical challenges, like doing 20 push-ups in 10 seconds or holding his breath for a minute. This duel, compared to the others on this list, has at least some stakes involved since Kanda is a member of the Society of Light, and if Judai loses, he must join. But it's clearly a filler duel for kicks. The duel itself only takes place because Kanda is yet another student at the academy who wants to impress Asuka, and to do so, he must defeat Judai. Judai manages to squeak out the window, leading Kanda to join another long list, this one of folks who wants Judai to be their bro. Side note, Kanda's dub name is Bob Banter, a reference to Bob Barker, who hosted the game show The Price is Right for over 30 years.
Face downs can be awfully scary. I'm a bit nervous.
Don't be! You can do it! We're behind you!
Thanks.
She is good.
The first of my 3 honorable mentions is Judai vs. Dark Magician Girl, a Season 1 showdown at a cosplay party. But Dark Magician Girl isn't some student cosplaying, she is the real deal. Much to the excitement of all the boys at the school and probably many of you viewers too. Beyond the obvious fan service is a fun little duel color commentated by Manjoman Show, wherein Judai has to overcome not just Dark Magician Girl's flurry of female magicians, but the crowd coming down on him for going too hard on their beloved. Can't really blame him though for not getting the memo. Dude doesn't even know what a fiancé is.
I object. Now activating the trap card, Threatening Roar. You see, just like that, your turns come to a close.
You're kidding.
Second is Judai vs. X, one of the top Pro League duels whose deck focuses on milling out the opponent. This is a duel filled with as many law puns as legally possible, but the duel itself is a nice change of pace due to its focus on winning by deck destruction as opposed to the standard life point count.
The truth is, I'm a doll spirit.
A what? So wait, does that mean I'm dueling against a toy?
She's such a doll.
Third is Judai vs. Alice, a creepy little duel between a doll that other characters are somehow falling in love with versus our valiant hero who still doesn't know what a fiancé is. I emphasize creepy because, well, just look at this thing. Still, the doll parts deck is one that to this day has a loyal following waiting for its debut, and the duel itself has a nice back and forth, making it on the list of honorable mentions.
I'm Yuki. Dimitri's just some child who would study other people's decks, then copy them. You see, with these cards, I'm not copying the king of games. I truly am the king of games.
And number 1 goes to Judai vs. Kagurazaka. This is the duel against the king of copycats, a guy who thinks he can prove himself as a duelist by running other people's strategies. So he steals Yugi's deck, which is currently on display, then duels Judai with it. But despite only holding it for a short period of time, as Misawa points out, he runs it flawlessly. While this may be the anime writers making a satire out of net decking, this duel is actually incredible. Easily one of the most underrated duels of the series and probably gets glossed over because Yugi vs. Judai ends up taking place at the end. Still, it's a great treat in early season 1 where again, most of the duels are just for fun's sake. In fact, this is the only duel on this list that takes more than one episode, driven by the intense back and forth. This extra length allows us to see Yugi's deck in all its glory, escalating from Chimera to Dark Magician of Chaos to finally BLS Envoy of the Beginning. Side note, thank Pegasus, Yugi finally realized the effect monster retrains are far superior to the rituals. Also noteworthy is the attention to detail, from how Kagurazaka's hair is styled like a Thames to the dual action, like how he pitches Dark Magician early on for monster reincarnation, only to set it up for Dark Renewal later. Much like how Atem pitched Swift Guy the Fierce Knight on his first turn against Yugi in the ceremonial duel, only to retrieve it back later. The dub takes this detailing to an even higher level as the copycat, known as Dimitri in the dub, mimics the Pharaoh's voice, says magic cards instead of spell cards, and you can even hear the original Duel Monster soundtrack during his turns.
I play the magic card, Multiply!
What the?
Overall, this duel is a great mix of fun and exciting and well deserving of the best filler duel from GX. But don't just take my word for it, the students at the school are definitely fans as well. So that does it for the top 10 filler duels. Remember guys, it's not always about saving the world or even winning tournaments. Maybe the real treasure of dueling is the friends you make along the way. So be a friend and make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content like this in the future.